So, picture the scene. The mortal coil has been shuffled off. The final breath has escaped. Instead of pearly gates or some kind of cosmic fluffy cloud situation, the surroundings suddenly get very dark, very damp, and incredibly depressing. Welcome to the ultimate basement level. Welcome to the Greek Underworld. Most folks imagine this place as just one big, spooky cavern filled with sad ghosts floating around aimlessly. But that is a massive oversimplification. The Land of the Dead isn't just a chaotic mess. It has geography, it has structure, and most importantly, it has some seriously sketchy plumbing. The entire layout of this sunless kingdom is defined by water. Well, water is using the term loosely. It is more like various forms of liquid misery flowing in designated channels. 5 great rivers crisscross the landscape, acting as borders, barriers, and transportation routes for the recently deceased. These aren't lazy rivers suited for an inner tube and a cold drink. These currents are heavy with spiritual baggage. To understand where a soul ends up down here, one must understand the rivers. It is a physical mapping of eternity, navigated by the world's grumpiest mass transit operator. Before even getting to the really nasty stuff, there is the initial vibe check at the entrance. The whole operation depends on a single crucial transaction. Down at the shoreline of the outermost boundary, a boat is waiting. It is not a nice boat. It looks like driftwood held together by rusted nails and bad vibes. And the captain is even worse. A skeletal figure, draped in tattered robes that smell like ancient dust, stands silently at the helm. This is the ferryman. It does not speak, it just holds out a bony hand, palm up. This is the moment of truth for any new arrival. If the proper burial rites were performed back in the land of the living, if someone cared enough to place a coin under the tongue or on the eyes of the deceased, then passage is secured. The shiny metal is dropped into the skeletal palm, and the shade is allowed to board the rickety skiff. But if the pockets are empty, tough break. Those unfortunate souls are left stranded on the near shore. They don't get to cross over. They are doomed to wander the muddy banks for 100 years as restless, weeping shadows, basically stuck in the world's worst waiting room with no magazines and no Wi-Fi, just staring across the water at a destination they cannot reach. For those with the cash, the journey begins across the first major hurdle, the Acheron. This is known as the River of Low, and it lives up to the billing. It isn't necessarily violent, but it is profoundly bummer-inducing. It's deep, dark, and murky. Gazing into the depths of the Acheron doesn't show reflections, it shows regrets. It is the physical embodiment of the pain of dying, the realization that the party is officially over. The air above the water feels heavy, thick with the collective sorrow of everyone who has ever had to leave the mortal world behind. It's the first taste of eternity, and it tastes like stagnant water and ashes. The ferry glides silently over this depressing soup, carrying its cargo of fresh shades toward the real heart of the operation. Once past the initial intake zone of the Acheron, things get louder. The geography shifts, becoming more rugged and unpleasant. Soon, the ears assaulted by a cacophony of terrible sounds. This is the neighborhood of the Cocytus, the River of Lamentation. If the Acheron is about quiet sadness, the Cocytus is about loud, messy grief. This river isn't always described as a flowing body of water. Sometimes it's more of a frozen, muddy swamp of despair. The primary feature here isn't the liquid itself, but the noise. The banks are crowded with spirits who didn't quite make the cut for the nicer parts of the underworld, or perhaps those stuck in that 100-year waiting period on the wrong side of the tracks. They scream, they wail, they ugly cry for eternity. The sound echoes off the cavern walls, creating a deafening feedback loop of pure misery. It's the soundtrack of ultimate regret, a place where souls stew in the knowledge of their past mistakes, and they want absolutely everyone to hear about it. The Cocytus is a place to avoid, but down here, avoidance isn't really an option. If the Cocytus is too noisy and damp, the next major waterway offers a drastic change in climate, though definitely not an improvement. The darkness of the underworld is suddenly broken by a terrifying orange glow. The air instantly becomes searing hot, smelling of sulfur and burning hair. This is the Phlegathon, the River of Fire. Now, physics works a little differently down here. This isn't regular lava that would just incinerate a spirit instantly. The phlegathon flows with liquid flame that burns but does not consume. It's designed to inflict maximum pain without offering the sweet release of total annihilation. This river serves a very specific purpose in the Underworld zoning laws. It usually forms the moat around Tartarus, the deepest, darkest pit where the truly wicked are sent for maximum security detention. The phlegathon is basically the electric fence of the afterlife. It roars and crackles, throwing sparks into the sunless sky, acting as a terrifying barrier to keep the worst of the worst inside their designated punishment zones. It's a violent, aggressive river, a constant reminder that things can always get hotter. While the phlegathon is flashy and loud, the most potent and respected river in the entire realm is something far more subtle and ancient. This is the Styx, the river of hate. It is the granddaddy of them all, often considered the boundary that wraps around the entire Underworld package, sealing it off from everything else. The waters of the Styx are jet black and weirdly oily. They seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. There's a palpable aura of power emanating from this river. In the cosmic hierarchy, the Styx is a big deal. Even the gods upstairs on Mount Olympus don't mess with the Styx. When a deity needs to make an unbreakable promise, they come down here and swear on these black waters. Breaking an oath sworn on the Styx carries severe penalties, even for immortals, like a 9-year timeout in a coma followed by social exile. For mortals, touching the water is generally bad news, though some legends say it can grant invulnerability if you survive the dip. But mostly, it's the ultimate border. It represents the finality of death and the cold, hard hatred that the dead sometimes harbor for the living. It's the deepest, darkest line in the sand that can never really be uncrossed. Finally, after all the woe, lamentation, fire, and hatred, there might be a desire to just turn the brain off. The Underworld management has a solution for that too. In a quieter corner of the realm, usually near the exit door for those lucky few scheduled for reincarnation, flows the Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. The vibe around the Lethe is deceptively peaceful. It flows gently, making a soft, lulling sound that makes eyelids heavy. The water looks clear, cool, and incredibly refreshing, especially after dealing with the heat of the phlegathon or the murk of the Acheron. A thirsty shade might be tempted to take a long drink, but that's the trap. Drinking from the Lethe wipes the slate clean. All memories of the mortal life, the loves, the losses, the triumphs, the embarrassments, are washed away instantly. It's a total factory reset for the soul. For some, this is a blessing, a chance to shed the baggage of a traumatic life before heading back upstairs for another go-around in a new body. For others, it's the ultimate tragedy, the final loss of self-identity. To drink is to cease to be who you were. The shades gathering on the banks of the Lethe are blank-faced, docile, and empty, waiting to be recycled, having forgotten they ever existed in the first place. These 5 rivers, Acheron, Cocytus, Phlegathon, Styx, and Lethe, are the arteries of the Greek afterlife. They are not just geographical features, they are emotional states made manifest in liquid form. They divide the realm, corral the inhabitants, and define the experience of eternity. It's a complex hydraulic system of suffering, ensuring that every soul ends up exactly where it's supposed to be, on the right side or the wrong side of the water.